Thank you for choosing to watch the video. This video is an exploration of what lies at the heart of customer engagement. The intended audience for this video is sellers who are looking for potential software solutions that can help them achieve customer engagement and a very happy and engaged customer at the end of the virtuous cycle of selling and buying that happens as a transaction between a seller and a buyer. The market, in terms of how this topic is understood, has moved on from the notion of CRM, which was customer relationship management, to a notion of customer engagement, a much more holistic relationship between a seller and a buyer as they undertake transactions wherein the seller tries to increase the share of wallet for either discretionary spending or mainstream spending that a customer enters into in terms of trying to make their lives easier. What was CRM all about? It was sellers trying to guess what a customer wants with access to very little or very disconnected information. It was sellers trying to serve these customers without really knowing them. Lots of hits and misses in the engagement. Lots of wasted dollars for the sellers at the end of the day because they spent a lot of money thinking that the customer wanted something, either a product or a service, and the customer never materialized. All of that marketing effort gone to waste. And at the end of the day, what happened on the other side? Customers sitting there and being spammed by information that is not really relevant to them. They are being told about a product or a service that they are not really interested in, or in many cases they can't afford, and they are even maybe in a more angry space because of the fact that they were just approached with something which created a need and a want which cannot be served simply because they don't have the purchasing power or the dollars to be able to purchase that particular offer that came their way. So in the world of customer engagement, what happens to how we market to the customer or a potential customer? Or how does a seller go about marketing stuff to a particular customer? Is the onus is on the seller to collect any and every manner of data to be able to help create a profile of the customer that they are hoping to target with a particular product or service, be it marketing data, credit card data, any and every tidbit of data that they can find from some of these list vendors, as they are called, who sell information about potential customers and help sellers create a profile of what this customer generally tends to buy, what kind of spending power does the customer have or potentially have, and come to an intelligent conclusion about some of the real financials that drive the purchasing decisions of a particular customer. The emerging notion of social media, where more and more people are getting online and transacting in the social media domain, leaving little tidbits of data and information for smart marketeers and intelligent sellers to gather to further help create the profile of or enrich the profile of a customer with some of these conversations that are happening in the open and public domain of social media. Maybe leverage whatever insights that ad engines can offer so that you get much more targeted in the ads that you put on some of these portals, be it even an email portal or any social media portals that leverage the concept of an ad engine to be able to help sellers get to target markets and target customers better. Maybe have a loyalty program out there that you constantly analyze and try to understand what's going on with a particular customer, a particular demographic, a particular geography. Finally, at the end of the day, it's about doing a lot of intelligent analysis on really large amounts of big data. And what's the golden rule here? It's about analyze, 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 and do some more analysis. There's Like, you can never come to a conclusion and say, I've done enough analysis. You keep getting a constant stream of new data, and your engines need to be set up to work on top of this data and be able to analyze and crunch all of that big data into meaningful insight. And that's the key word. What you need to do is gain insight into your potential customer before you approach them. Make some predictions. You've got so much structured and unstructured data these days to work off. Try and come to a conclusion about what this particular customer needs at a certain point in time. If they've bought a refrigerator in the last 1 year, most likely offering them a new refrigerator would not be the best idea at this point in time, until and unless you have an explicit insight into the fact that the refrigerator is broken down and the customer is absolutely angry with their current refrigerator and are looking for a change. Maybe they tweeted about it, or they put it somewhere in the social domain saying, hey, my refrigerator just broke down and I'm looking for a new refrigerator. Until then, do not approach them with another offer for a refrigerator. It'll just add to the clutter that comes into a customer's either email inbox or on the phone via outbound calls, and it just makes them a little angrier and a little less patient to listen to marketing efforts. For sellers, it is to really dig deep into whatever data that you have out there and that you can find for a customer profile, the demographic, a geography, and try to come to very intelligent, nuanced conclusions about what a potential customer would be looking for. Dig really deep. Once you've found the customer, how do you transact with the customer? What makes for a delighted customer? Is how easy is it to transact with you as a seller? At the end of the day, that's the name of the game. One of the easiest way to leave an impact on the customer is when they get into a direct transaction with you as a seller, is to make the experience as easy as possible for them. Based on all the digging you've done, most likely you know how this customer likes to interact. Do they like paying via credit cards? Do they like paying via PayPal or some other mode of transactions? Do they have a preference scheme of being able to write checks, or being able to do they like writing checks towards the beginning of the month and leveraging a credit card towards the end of the month? Those are some nuances that you need to really dig deep. When you dig deep into your customer, you begin to tease out those little aspects of the customer on how they love to transact with sellers, dependent on where they are and what kind of purchase life cycle they are undertaking with a particular seller. And a lot of this data, this digging, will help you in easing the transaction that you undertake with the customer. Give them, if this is the first time that you're interacting with a new customer, give them the potential to anonymously check out and even not leave a explicit data trail, because as part of the transaction, most likely they will be leaving some amount of data for you, and you do have hopefully they landed at your site from a campaign. So all of that information you do have, and a lot of it you can tie back and not have the customer jump through hoops of a registration, and in case they don't have enough time to fill out all of the forms that you need for you to be able to create an explicit user profile. There will be a data vapor trail that you can then follow up on and keep the customer engaged. The key here is to make the experience as memorable as possible. And some of the keys to keep making the experience as memorable as possible is to keep it simple, not seem desperate, and fill the transaction with clutter. Say they are on a website, and towards the end of the transaction, you start serving colorful ads all over the page and they are completely distracted, and instead of finishing off the transaction, now they are like, oh, what's this? And in case they don't see anything relevant over there, they are more like, oh boy, these guys seem a little too desperate to have some more of my business. So that's the kind of mindset that you want to avoid, and not seem desperate to a particular buyer. And in case you're engaging with a particular buyer as a seller over an extended period of time, where you have maybe 10 or 15 interactions with this particular potential customer, it's a durable that they are buying, which will stay in their homes or business premises for a few years, and make it an omni-channel and seamless experience. Like if they come to your website and leave some feedback, or they call up your call center trying to inquire about a product, or they go onto your Facebook page and leave a comment, or they go onto Twitter and tweet about you. So the thing is to be able to have a tap into all of this and create a comprehensive profile of the customer, so that they don't feel like, okay, I sent you an email some 5 days back and you have no clue that you got an email, dear seller. Avoid all of these confusions and make it a seamless omni-channel experience for the customer. After all the transactions are done with the customer, you really want to see that the customer provides some manner of feedback and helps in the promotion of the business, at least via the medium of feedback, so that at least you as a seller get a sense that this customer was really impacted by your sale of the product or a service, and wants to engage further, and hopefully be a lever in promoting the business. Now, these days, obviously, with the prevalence of social media, a lot of this can easily happen on the public domain social media. The customer could provide you feedback via email communications. What you want to get a sense of is the tonality and the sentiment behind any and every of these feedback like transactions that you have with the customer, and try to deduce an end result for the sentiment around the transaction, and how the customer feels post the sale of the product or the service. And this is excellent information to have in terms of keeping a loyal customer, and potentially setting them up for leverage in terms of actively leveraging this customer to recruit new customers. Now, what's happened with the prevalence of social media is a lot of these customers don't just kind of give feedback, but they work via social media outlets like Facebook or Pinterest, and actively engage around the product or service in talking about some of the use cases, the benefits that they received from the service. Then what happens is other people who are also on these social media platforms tend to get attracted to whatever is put out there by this customer, and they want to know, okay, I have a similar business problem, dear customer, or dear poster, and you've written that you bought a particular product or a service from a seller and it helped you solve this problem. So maybe I want to know a little more, and then potentially indulge in a transaction with the seller, and try to get my problem solved via the seller's offering as well. So what you want to keep an eye out on as a seller is this customer going out and prospecting for you on behalf of you on some of these various forums, like business buyers would be on LinkedIn, end consumers, single consumers most likely on platforms like Facebook, Pinterest, dependent on where they are and how they want to express. Do they want to express it in the written word, or they want to put a picture up there describing what they just felt after the transaction, and in the subsequent days after the transaction, how they've used the product or service? And maybe come back to your brand page and talk about the whole transaction that happened around the product or a service with you, and help other customers understand as well, in case they've posted something on your brand page asking questions, etc. So a whole notion of building a community around the product or a service offering that you're selling via the leverage of existing customers to come and help you recruit newer customers, because nothing is more powerful than a story told by a customer about a particular product or a service that you have sold. And there's no better endorsement than somebody doing the work on behalf of you, telling the story, and you not exactly paying them for it directly, maybe rewarding them for having spoken kindly about your product or your service offering, and actively recruiting some new customers for you. So these are certain ways and means in which the notion of community around your product and service offering can be further enhanced by customers talking about it to potential new customers. And these are ways and means by which your existing customers trigger potential new customers to come and engage in transactions with you. What does this finally mean? Are things different for business buyers versus single consumers, etc.? It's just the mode of purchase and the life cycle of purchase, the process of undertaking that transaction is slightly different for business buyers versus single unit consumers for either a product or a service offering. But otherwise, from a behavior perspective, you'll most likely see very similar behaviors from business buyers and single customers, where they'll they'll really appreciate everything that I've spoken about in terms of how they want to be marketed to, how they want to transact with you as a seller, how they want to be able to give you feedback and help you better understand how to tweak your business model so that you serve your customers better. And the best part of this virtuous cycle is these customers helping you recruit new customers. And essentially, for sellers, the holy grail of customer engagement is to be able to come up with the single view of a customer across all of these multitude of interactions that happen in the virtuous cycle of customer engagement. So hopefully this has been helpful for the audience in terms of trying to understand what lies at the heart of customer engagement. And you can see, if you do it well, you obviously leave a very nice sentiment in the hearts of your customers, and help them be happier and merrier in the long run. Thank you for your time and engagement. I'd love feedback on the video and the content and the storytelling as and when you have the time, and it'll help me tell you future stories in a much better way, shape and form. Thank you for your time and engagement.